Welcome to the Raven Knoll Show. I'm your host, Raven C. Knoll. I'm a wife, mother, counselor, mindset coach, and speaker, helping you win from within. Today, I actually want to touch on why it's so important for you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So if I could give this live a subtitle, it would be the mindset of constant upgrades. All right. So if I could give this little subtitle, cliff note type of thing, it would be the mindset of constant upgrades. All right. So if you are going to, yes, it will. If you are going to build a business, establish a business of any kind, a brand, scale a business, or grow a business in any shape, form, or facet, no matter what type of business it is, no matter what it is that you're trying to do career-wise, no matter what it is you're trying to do professionally, you have to adopt a mindset of constant upgrades. And what I mean by that is that you have to be willing to consistently upgrade and challenge your mindset as technology evolves and as business trends change, okay? I have been guilty of this myself in the past, and I had to learn a hard lesson. And this is what it is. Trends are not going to adapt to you. Period. Okay. When we think about the market, we think about what's happening in the world, we think about society in general. Those things do not adapt to you. A lot of people will try to tell you, don't go with the trends, don't focus on the trends. And like I said, I've been guilty of this before, but you have to be able to find a way to adapt to the market trends without losing yourself, losing your value, losing your why, losing your authenticity, and losing yourself in the process overall. So that is what's important. Trends are not going to adapt to you. You have to find a way to adapt to the market without losing yourself and becoming this cookie cutter version of what everybody else is doing. Okay, so I'll touch on that a little bit more later. But like I was saying, you have to be willing to consistently upgrade and challenge your mindset as technology evolves and as business trends change. And the official term for this is adaptive intelligence. The official term, and everything that we're about to talk about today, is adaptive intelligence. And this is defined as an ability of the mind to be able to change in response to the current demand in the environment. Say that again. The definition of adaptive intelligence is an ability of the mind to be able to change in response to the current demand in the environment. What does change mean? It means to alter or modify. So that means adaptive intelligence is the ability to alter or modify your mindsets in response to the current demand in the environment. Y'all gonna think today, okay? And I'm telling you, this information is gonna help you. So on this live, we are specifically discussing businesses, women in business, women that desire to grow a business, women that desire to build a business, women that already have a businesses established, whatever that is. So whatever your current business is, your business model, whatever it is, it currently has a demand in its environment. So if you're an online business-based business, there's a current demand in your environment. If you are a brick and mortar business, there's a current demand in your environment. If you're a fashion stylist, there's a current demand in your environment. If you're a coach, a counselor, there's a current demand in your environment. If you're a service provider of any kind, if you're a brand strategist, if you're a business strategist, there is a current demand in your environment. So the best way for me to break down this information, for you to be able to chew it and to actually digest it and to be able to follow along with me and see yourself in this information, is to make sure that we are all on an even playing field, okay? So I want to give you an example that we can all relate to. So let's look at the pandemic as an example. I use this as an example because it's a time period that every single one of you that are listening to me can relate to, okay? So I'm going to put this on a broader scale as well so you can relate to it. So first off, as we all know, none of us had ever experienced anything like the pandemic, okay? Would you agree or disagree? Put that in the comment section for me. If you agree, none of us had ever experienced anything like the pandemic. Agree, disagree? Put that in the comment section for me, okay? So if none of us had ever experienced anything like the pandemic, that means no one was fully prepared to shift with the times or adapt to what the heck was going on. No one was fully prepared to tackle that situation. None of us, no matter, what was going on, because we had never experienced anything like that. Okay, so not being able to adapt to that, one of my examples of not having good adaptive intelligence or poor adaptive intelligence during that time is the school systems. The school systems, at least the ones in Chicago, were in complete disarray when the pandemic hit. When we had the quarantine, stay-at-home order, when the school systems were closed and we, couldn't do anything in person, there was no gathering for an extended period of time, no one had an idea of how to adapt to that situation. The school systems really did fail in being able to adapt to what was happening and what was going on. And my husband worked in leadership for a school system at the time. So I had a firsthand view of what was going on, okay? They were not able to adapt and shift quickly to the changes and trends that were happening based on that pandemic. So I'm not going to say that there isn't an adjustment period when it comes to adaptive intelligence or trying to adapt to a new environment or trying to adapt to a new way. Shifting your mindset and your approach takes time. But when adopting a mindset of constant upgrades, there is a shorter adjustment period. So when you have a mindset that has the ability to change and the ability to adapt, you're going to have a shorter adjustment period than those that have a hard time going with change and going with the trends or finding their ability to stay up to date with these things. Now, the school systems are still suffering today due to their inability to adjust quickly, effectively, and efficiently with the times. It's just the truth. They're like I think I just read on the news the other day, or like an article, there are hundreds, probably thousands across the U.S. of vacant teacher positions based on what they had to experience in that pandemic and their ability to not adapt to the times in an effective and efficient way. People just don't want to be in those environments anymore. So that's a consequence of not having adaptive intelligence or being able to have a mindset of constant upgrades. Now, this is on a broader scale, but I want you to see yourself in what I'm saying, okay? Now, let's give a totally different perspective. Hey, Lisa, a totally different perspective, okay? Now, let's look at a totally different example. Instagram. You're on Instagram right now. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I see you. YouTube, I see you. But I'm on Instagram, right? So I want to give an example of Instagram. Now, we all have positive and negatives about the changes happening on the Instagram platform. But the truth is, Instagram is adopting a mindset of constant upgrades and building upon adaptive intelligence. That's just the truth. Even if we don't like it, even if we don't agree with it, even if we don't understand it, even if we kick and scream about it, Instagram is adopting a mindset of constant upgrades and building upon adaptive intelligence. They are going with the trends of technology and also consumer trends. They are playing the long game in business. They are playing the long game to remain relevant during the times. Okay? So again, adaptive intelligence is defined as an ability of the mind to be able to change in response to the current demand in your environment. Instagram's current strength, previous to all this video stuff, a picture and photo. That was their comfort zone. That's what they knew to be true. That's what they leaned upon. That's what they marketed. That's what they promoted. That's how their systems ran. That was their procedure. That was their process. Photo and picture. But they had to learn to become comfortable with being uncomfortable and tap into a video model feed, which originally, again, was not their main focus or their strength. So they had to learn how to adapt with the trends and the times. That is what adaptive intelligence is all about. And this is why it's so important for you as a business owner, or one that's aspiring to grow a business, or one that's trying to scale their business, or one that's just has a dream to start one in general, that you have to adopt a mindset of adaptive intelligence, okay? If you're going to be successful as a business owner who plays the long game, you have to tap into this type of mindset, all right? So I hope that you see yourself in this information and you kind of like digesting what I'm saying here, all right? So here are just a few steps, tips, points of wisdom to help you adopt a mindset of adaptive intelligence or a mindset of constant upgrades, okay? So here's first thing is first. If you are a person who has a hard time with change, you need to have a conversation with yourself as to why that is. I'm going to say that again. If you are a person who has a hard time with change, you have to have a conversation with yourself about why that is. You have to dig deep to help yourself understand what change communicates to you in your mind. Does change communicate risk in your mind? And are you afraid of taking risk? If so, what makes you afraid of taking risk? Because having an adaptive intelligence is all about change. It's all about adjusting. It's all about transforming. It's all about doing that type of work. And so if you are a person who has a hard time with change, then you have to ask yourself and have a real conversation with yourself. Why is that? Y'all following me so far? Okay. Number 2, you need to be present and up to date with your market. Now, I'm not a business coach. I'm not a business strategist. That's not what I do. I'm a mindset coach and I'm a counselor. So we're doing inner work here. All right. But if you are aware the trends of the market you are in, if you're not aware of the changes, the trends of the market that you're in, you have nothing to adapt to. If you are completely aloof, if you have not done your research, if you have not really been intentional about understanding the market and all those different things, you have nothing to adapt to. So you need to be present and aware of what's going on in the market that you are trying to infiltrate, the market in which you're trying to dominate, the market in which you're trying to grow a business in. And like I said, that takes research and intentionality and a lot of thought power, but it's essential for business owners, okay? Number 3, you need to remain authentic to who you are. Adopting a mindset of constant upgrades or growing in adaptive intelligence doesn't mean you start fitting what I said earlier, this cookie cutter mode of doing what everyone else is doing. That is not what adaptive intelligence is. What it means is you take your authentic, unique approach and partner that with current trends. You don't lose yourself trying to be trendy, okay? The question you ask yourself is, how can I remain authentic to myself and partner with the current trends? That is what adaptive intelligence is all about. It's not being this, and creating reels and like doing what everybody else is doing. It's being intentional about bringing your authenticity to whatever is happening currently in the market. And this is all by all the information I just gave you. All of this is what I'm talking about when I say get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it may not be second nature to you to do this type of stuff. It may not be second nature to you to make these changes, these shifts, these being intentional about researching and being intentional about learning the market and all these different things. It may not be second nature to you to get in front of a camera or do videos or do reels or whatever that looks like for you. It may not be second nature to you, but it's a mindset that is necessary if you are going to play the long game in business. Okay? So I hope that those couple tips really did help you. And this is something that you can start really digging deep in when it comes to you personally. If you could measure your own adaptive intelligence based on the information that was just given, what type of grade would you give yourself? If you can grade or measure yourself, would you be like, oh, I'm an A+, I'm B-, I'm a big F, like what is happening? These are things that are important for you as a business owner, because even with professional development, at the core of that is personal development. So when we think about everything that we want to do, goals and desires and dreams and things we want to build, the core of whatever you are building is personal development. You may be building a business, but ultimately you're building yourself as well. You may be building a brand, but ultimately you're building yourself as well, because you have to grow in so many different areas in order to be able to show up, to be consistent, to be your unique self, to determine how to make decisions, all of that. So anytime you are building a business, building a brand, going forward in your career, all those different things, you are ultimately also building yourself. All right. So I wanted to just do a quick live today. Didn't have anything excessive that I wanted to give you, but I wanted to give you those quick tips. Do I have any questions in regards to the information that was just stated about adaptive intelligence or adopting a mindset of constant upgrades or change or transformation or any of those things? Any questions from you guys? And as I wait for questions, I've been saying this on every single one of my lives, which is the best way for me to be able to broadcast it, is I always get the question, how can I work with you? And right now there are two options for you to work with me. If you are looking to work with me within this year, you currently can join my Propel Her Collective, which is a collective of women who are faith-based, purpose-driven, and they're ready to stop stalling and start owning their next level. This is for the both and woman, the woman that's called to ministry and the marketplace, and she's ready to go from playing small to leveling up in her potential. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always DM me Propel, and we will talk more about that and chat more about that. The second option is my Mindset to Momentum Mastermind, which will not be opening up until 2023. And that is an application-based program, and it is for high-achieving women in business, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, influencers who are interested in cultivating a healthy mindset of momentum as you maneuver the pressures and demands of your profession and your lifestyle. You can apply for that opening in 2023, but I'm also thinking about opening up something this year because I've been getting a lot of inquiries about working with me. I am pregnant, if you did not know that, but I'm not due now, so I'm actually thinking about opening up something. So just keep your eyes open for that. I got a question here. Truly, Tanika, if you find it hard to be adaptive to change, what are some ways to overcome that? The most important thing, I think, step one is realizing that you don't easily adapt to change, right? And I think, like I said before, you need to go on this discovery with yourself to kind of determine why. So a lot of this is reflection. A lot of it is reflection. And when you start in the reflection process, it helps you to actually confront some of those internal barriers, internal fears, internal mindset blocks, all those different things. And so if you can reflect on the fact, if you kind of just sit with yourself one day, or you just decide that this is going to be a time of reflection for me to understand or to unravel or to really dig deep into what is causing me to not adapt to change well. You want to sit with your thoughts and really start to discover, okay, so I don't adapt to change well. Why is that? You want to start questioning, am I fearful of change? Am I fearful of the risks that are associated with change? Am I fearful of the methods or routines that come with change? So you have to really start to ask yourself questions to be able to unravel these things, because you could say, you know what, I'm not really afraid of the risk, but I am afraid of the new routines that I have to put in place, or discovering a new part of myself, or starting over, or whatever that looks like for you. So if you're not necessarily sure of where that disconnect is when it comes to change, start with reflection. Start asking yourself some questions. Start digging deep. Start unraveling. Start trying to find out like what is behind the surface of those things. And then once you actually can discover what exactly is going on, you can then take steps to help you overcome those things. So for example, if it's a risk, so if you're afraid of risk, like let's say you're not a big risk taker, you like things to be orderly, you like to know the outcome, you're like, tell me how this is going to work. I don't want to be out here surprised. I don't like all this spontaneity. Like you want to know what exactly is going to happen. I don't want to take no risk. I want it to be safe. Then you can take a step of saying, okay, how can I prepare myself a little bit more for the risk that's on the other side of this? If A happens or B happens, how do I respond to A or how do I respond to B? A lot of times when people are not necessarily risk takers, they really crave safety. And there could be a lot of things that's the reason behind that. It could be childhood things. It could be things that happened where they took a risk and they failed, or they didn't get the outcome that they desired, or whatever that is. And so you can determine, to help you be able to take that risk, you ask yourself, okay, if option A happens or option B happens, how can I be prepared to handle option A, and how can I be prepared to handle option B, but not have an expectation of what's going to happen. A lot of times people are dealing with like disappointment and different things of that nature because they have expectations of things that are out of their control. That is where disappointment comes. You set these high expectations for things that you have no control over. Like you have no control of the outcome. You have no control of how it's going to happen. You have no control of how it's going to resolve itself. But you have all these expectations of what you want to happen and what you desire to happen and what you imagine happening and what you start to think is going to happen. And when it does not hit that mark, you're disappointed. So I would say once you actually discover what's behind the inability to change or being comfortable with change, then determine, if A happens or B happens, how can I be better prepared to handle A or B, but not have an expectation that whatever the outcome is going to be the outcome. Just allow yourself to be more prepared for wherever that outcome is going to lead. Okay. So I think that would be a good first step and a good way to start thinking about that. Was that helpful, Tanika? Let me know. All right. So with adaptive intelligence within oneself, we must know our own strengths, worries. Okay. Lisa, that's your question. So with adaptive intelligence within oneself, we must know our own strengths and worries. Yes. I think that it's important, no matter what. It doesn't matter like whatever like area of life you're in, whatever your desires are, whatever your goals are, whatever your vision is for your life, you should always understand your strengths and your weaknesses. That's a part of being self-aware. And so you have a better opportunity to respond better to change, environment changes, to life changes, and all those different things when you are aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. So if you are aware that you have a weakness when it comes to change, then you can be better prepared to handle change. But if you are unaware of that, you have a hard time adjusting to change. If that's something that you're completely like, no, that's not me, or you're just in denial about, that makes it hard for you to enter into anything and be well prepared to handle it. Because a lot of people that are just stubborn, they are in complete denial that they're stubborn, right? Have you ever like been in conversation with a person or relationship with a person or a dynamic with a person that is just outright stubborn, right? But they are just in denial about this stubbornness, that's really going to make it hard to be able to be in relationship with people and have healthy relationship with people when you are that stubborn and you're not willing to hear other people's point of view. You're not willing to see other people's point of view. That's really hard. But if you understand that stubbornness is a weakness of yours and that you can be very one-track minded, then you have the ability to communicate that with another person that's in a relationship with you. Or you're able to say, okay, I know that I can be stubborn, so let me think about another person's perspective and try to like analyze where they're coming from rather than just automatically thinking that I'm right or this is the right way or this is the only way, if that makes sense. So I think it's extremely important, no matter where you are in life, no matter what your career is, no matter what type of business that you're building, no matter what your vision is for your life overall, understanding your strengths and your weaknesses is extremely important. And honestly, when it comes to worry is really, a lot of that it's just fear. It's fear of the future. It's fear of an outcome, again, that you have no control over. And sometimes we begin to tell ourselves these stories based on things that we've experienced in the past or anything of that nature that makes us think that this is going to be the outcome again, or this is the possible outcome based on all the scenarios that I've placed in my mind. And so we have to really step back and kind of, determine where's all that fear coming from and that anxiety coming from to cause us to worry and all those different things. But ultimately, you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses no matter where you are in life. Okay, Regine, I hope I said that right. I'm not great at taking risks, but I want to push past the fear and just go for it. Yeah, the best way to overcome fear is to face the fear. But let me say this. You also need to be prepared mentally and emotionally for whatever that confrontation looks like for you. I never tell anyone to go into a battle blind, right? You never want to go into any type of war blind. And so when you've been a certain way for so long, you've been like, you're 30 years old, you've been this way for 30 years, like, or like those are things that you've expressed over your entire life, or obstacles you've had a hard time overcoming. That's going to be a war within your mind, within yourself, to overcome it. So you want to make sure that you're prepared mentally and emotionally to be able to actually face whatever it is or have that confrontation with yourself. Now, I think personally, in my perspective and also my opinion, is that the only way to overcome fear is to actually face the thing that you're afraid of. But again, I never tell people to go into anything blind. You have to make sure that you are properly prepared mentally and emotionally to face whatever it is that you're trying to conquer internally, because that's still an internal battle. Regardless of it, people may not be able to see it. Everybody else don't know what it is that you're facing, whatever it is that you're going through. They're not able to see the internal battles that you are trying to overcome, but you do. And that's a confrontation that you have to be prepared for, because if not, a lot of other things can be triggered. So I always think fear, only way to overcome it is to face it, but you need to be mentally and emotionally prepared for that confrontation and that internal war.
This has been the Raven Knoll Show. Thanks for listening. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to this podcast so you're the first to know when new episodes are released. And don't forget to leave a review. If you can't wait until the next show, follow along on Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter at RavenCKnoll for more tips and to keep the conversation going. Go ahead and DM me on Instagram or take a screenshot of this podcast and share it to your IG stories. I want to know about your takeaways from the show. Don't forget to tag me and use the hashtag RCNPodSquad. Lastly, visit my website at ravencknoll.com and join my email list to get exclusive bonuses only for my email subscribers. Thanks again for rocking and rolling with me. I'll talk to you soon.